In a move shaking the monarchy's very foundations, Tom Parker Bowles, son of Queen Camilla, has been quietly exiled from royal palace grounds. The shocking decision came after Peter Phillips, son of Princess Anne, delivered explosive evidence to King Charles III, including classified documents, digital surveillance, and travel logs. The allegations? That Camilla's son had been leaking sensitive royal information for personal gain. The response? Swift, silent, and devastating. For the first time, Charles was forced to choose between his wife and the crown, and the verdict signaled a dramatic new shift in palace power. Loyalty has never been more absolute. Shocking decision. At 7:15 a.m. on a grey London morning, a discreet black SUV pulled away from the staff entrance of Clarence House. Inside it sat Tom Parker Bowles, Camilla's eldest child, his expression unreadable. The move came just 3 days after a top-secret briefing between King Charles, Princess Anne, and royal security. The verdict? Tom was to be removed immediately from all royal access accommodations and stripped of informal privileges that allowed him regular access to palace property. While never officially part of the working royal roster, Tom Parker Bowles had been a familiar figure at Sandringham, Highgrove, and several back entrances to Kensington Palace, often slipping into events through staff corridors. Camilla's marriage to Charles in 2005 had slowly extended quiet courtesy access to her family. But that courtesy ended with a whisper, not a headline. The order came not from a formal press release, but from a signed memo hand-delivered by a senior equerry. Sources described it as non-negotiable. Royal insiders confirmed that Tom's belongings were collected under supervision and escorted off the grounds by midday, with palace aides instructed not to speak to the press. Several of Camilla's longtime staff were observed in heated exchanges behind the East Wing shortly afterward. While the family tried to downplay the event as routine accommodation adjustments, it was anything but. This was an exile, and those close to the throne knew it. Tom had become a liability, and the palace had made its move. The most telling sign? Not a single Windsor intervened. Not Charles, not Camilla, and certainly not William. One senior courtier noted, "If they're letting him go this easily, it means they already know the full story." The silence wasn't just cold. It was calculated. And it signaled that whatever had just happened behind those palace gates, the fallout was going to reshape who the firm trusted, and who they quietly pushed into the shadows. But Tom's removal didn't happen in a vacuum. Just 24 hours before he was escorted off the grounds, a quiet but powerful royal figure handed the king something that changed everything. Evidence that would trigger a royal purge. Peter Phillips presents explosive evidence to King Charles. It was Monday morning, just after 9:30 a.m., when Peter Phillips, the son of Princess Anne, walked into a high-security royal office carrying a leather case. Inside were documents, some digital, some printed, that would cause a tectonic shift inside the monarchy. The material reportedly included surveillance logs, email transcripts, and metadata trail reports, all implicating Tom Parker Bowles and members of his inner circle in potential breaches of royal privacy protocols. The data had been gathered over 4 months, with assistance from external cybersecurity consultants discreetly hired through Peter's private contacts. Sources say the evidence pointed to unauthorized communications between Tom's associates and individuals known to have commercial ties to publishers and foreign consultants. Among the most concerning files were flight manifests, encrypted messages, and attempts to access classified family schedules, information that could be monetized, weaponized, or worse, leaked to hostile media. Peter was described as grave, determined and utterly without drama, as he laid out his findings. He reportedly told King Charles, "This is bigger than personal disputes. This is a breach of the sovereign's trust." For a man known as the most understated royal, Peter's bold move stunned court observers. It was clear he was not acting for his mother alone, but for the stability of the entire institution. The message was simple. Camilla's family could no longer be trusted. Charles, reportedly stunned by the depth and precision of the evidence, said little during the briefing. But by that evening, aides confirmed that orders had been issued to revoke all informal access granted to Tom Parker Bowles and his direct affiliates. One court official stated, "It wasn't the king who made the first move, it was Peter. And the king simply couldn't ignore the data once it was on his desk." In royal terms, it was a decapitation strike, and Peter Phillips had fired the first shot. But while Peter worked behind the scenes, the battle lines had already been drawn years earlier, between two royal women locked in a cold war that was no longer quiet. The queen consort was about to face the iron will of the palace's most disciplined warrior, Princess Anne. Behind palace walls. To outsiders, Princess Anne and Queen Camilla had always maintained a thin veneer of civility. But palace insiders knew better. Their decades-long tension had recently turned into outright hostility. Anne, a blood royal raised on duty and discipline, had always viewed Camilla's children, particularly Tom Parker Bowles, as outsiders exploiting proximity to power. And when Camilla began pushing for Tom's inclusion in private strategy meetings in early 2023, Anne reportedly warned the king, "You're inviting shadows into the house." Anne's resentment only deepened as she noticed her personal staff being overridden or circumvented by Camilla's aides. In one case, a meeting Anne was scheduled to chair was mysteriously reassigned, with Tom appearing in her place. Aides loyal to Anne claim she saw it as a blatant power play, engineered to marginalize the royal bloodline in favor of Camilla's extended family. What had once been passive disapproval turned into strategic resistance. But it was the quiet alliance between Anne and her son Peter that tipped the balance. When Peter presented the evidence, Anne backed it completely. She told Charles, "There's a reason the crown survives, and it's not because we bend for convenience." The confrontation reportedly caused Camilla to leave the room in tears, but Anne did not apologize. As one aide noted, Anne doesn't play politics. She plays defense for the monarchy. This latest revelation was Anne's tipping point. The emotional undertow from decades of strained relations erupted into decisive action. What began as personal discomfort had now become institutional protection. And Camilla, once the woman who reshaped Charles's life, was rapidly losing ground to a sister-in-law who had never once strayed from her oath to the crown. As Anne defended the monarchy from within, the king himself was forced to make the most painful decision of his reign. Between love and loyalty, Charles had to choose. And in the end, he chose the one thing his title could never survive without: the crown. King Charles torn between blood and marriage. King Charles sat alone in his private study at Burke Hall the night the evidence was laid bare. The report from Peter Phillips and Anne's unflinching stance left the monarch with a dilemma that blurred the lines between crown and kin. Camilla, his wife of 18 years, was demanding protection, but Anne, his sister of 73 years, demanded action. According to a palace source, Charles whispered aloud to no one in particular, "Family is one thing. The crown is another." Though deeply affectionate toward Tom Parker Bowles, Charles couldn't overlook what was now official: unauthorized data transmissions, suspicious contacts, and circumvention of royal protocol. Royal security, having independently verified Peter's dossier, gave a sobering assessment. This could be used to destabilize royal movements and internal planning. It was not just tabloid fodder. It was a breach of state-adjacent systems. And for the first time in his reign, Charles had to govern with steel, not sentiment. When he finally summoned Camilla, it was not to negotiate. It was to inform. The meeting, held at Clarence House, lasted under 20 minutes. Camilla reportedly arrived composed but left shaking, described by a courtier as pale, glassy-eyed, and stunned into silence. Charles delivered the news plainly. Tom would be removed, his access revoked. There would be no appeals. Camilla allegedly responded, "You've let her win," referring bitterly to Anne. Yet Charles remained unmoved. After a lifetime of shielding Camilla from critics and scandal, from the Parker Bowles affair to the Diana years, this was the moment he could no longer afford softness. Senior advisors applauded the decision. One remarked, "He finally acted like a king, not a husband, not a father figure." A king, the message sent across palace corridors was unmistakable. Blood and duty now outweighed marital loyalty. But while Charles chose silence and compliance, Camilla's reaction was anything but subdued. The queen consort, long seen as composed and cunning, erupted in private. Her fury as sharp as her isolation. Camilla's private fury. Inside her private suite at Ray Mill House, Camilla was incandescent. After nearly 2 decades of slowly building her position within the monarchy, she now saw it unraveling, not by scandal, but by calculated exclusion. According to insiders, her first reaction to the order against Tom Parker Bowles was denial. "They wouldn't dare," she allegedly snapped, pacing for hours behind closed doors, phone pressed to her ear in a frenzy of hushed calls and curt instructions. She made direct appeals to Charles, urging him to reconsider, but was met with icy detachment. "This is beyond us now," he reportedly replied, refusing to reverse the decision. Camilla turned her anger toward Princess Anne, accusing her of orchestrating a vendetta. She privately claimed Anne had weaponized Peter and was conspiring to push Camilla's family out of the firm entirely. Her circle began referring to it as the Windsor coup. Behind the scenes, Camilla's press team scrambled into overdrive, initiating a containment campaign to keep tabloids at bay. 2 senior aides allegedly resigned in protest, believing her anger was clouding judgment. With public trust already fragile and Diana's legacy still looming large, Camilla's outbursts only worsened perceptions. "She's lost the room," said one palace veteran. "And now she's losing the walls, too." For a queen consort once hailed as a rehabilitated figure, this moment felt like royal regression. As she faced the fact that Tom's exile was permanent, the real heartbreak settled in. This was not just about her son. It was about the limits of her influence and the unspoken truth that, no matter the crown on her head, Camilla had never truly been accepted by the old guard. And while Camilla's fury filled the halls of Wiltshire, another figure remained calm, collected, and quietly satisfied: Prince William, who had long envisioned this very outcome. William's quiet endorsement of the exile decision. Prince William didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need to issue a memo. All he had to do was nod. Palace insiders confirmed that William was fully briefed on the security report against Tom Parker Bowles, and his position was immediate: support the purge. William has long envisioned a monarchy that's tight, blood-bound, and scandal-proof. In Tom's removal, he saw not a family matter, but a structural correction. For years, William reportedly harbored concerns about Camilla's growing influence and the quiet entitlements of her family. Tom's presence at strategy briefings, private retreats, and even state dinners in 2022 had crossed an invisible line. William allegedly told a confidant, "We can't let the monarchy be treated like a clubhouse for step-siblings." His approval of Peter Phillips's move signals a new era, one governed by accountability and bloodline, not blended convenience. It was Catherine, as ever, who helped temper the emotion. She quietly supported William's stance, reminding him that transparency and boundary setting would define his reign more than his father's compromises ever did. Together, they reviewed internal protocol files and began drafting a longer-term plan to eliminate informal royal access among non-working relatives. William's loyalty to Princess Anne in this saga further solidified his authority. He is said to view Anne as the anchor of the royal code: duty, silence, and service. His alignment with Peter and Anne forms a formidable triad, one now shaping the future firm. And while William may have stayed silent publicly, his message echoed through the corridors: if you're not part of the bloodline, you're not part of the future. But amidst the shifting alliances and royal recalibrations, one unlikely figure was rising from the background: quiet, reserved, and now undeniably powerful. Peter Phillips, the man who pulled the first string in the unraveling of Camilla's court. Peter Phillips. For most of his life, Peter Phillips has remained outside the spotlight. Queen Elizabeth II's eldest grandchild, but without a title or fanfare. Now, palace insiders are calling him the Crown's silent enforcer. His decisive role in exposing Tom Parker Bowles's breaches has reshaped the inner workings of royal accountability. Peter's background in corporate event strategy, paired with his lifelong proximity to Princess Anne, gave him access and discretion. Unlike his cousins, Peter never courted media attention, never sought public approval. That quiet integrity became his sharpest weapon. Sources say he spent over 4 months compiling evidence before confronting King Charles, painstakingly tracking travel records, email trails, and unauthorized meeting logs. His findings showed Tom had crossed more than just protocol. He'd crossed a sacred boundary of trust. One aide remarked, "Peter spoke softly, but dropped a thunderbolt." What shocked many within the palace was Peter's courage. Standing before his uncle the king, flanked only by Anne and one senior advisor, Peter reportedly opened his remarks with, "I serve no agenda but the crown." His composure and the gravity of the evidence left Charles without a counterpoint. Camilla's camp was blindsided. No one had expected this quiet figure to wield such force. Now Peter's stock within the royal hierarchy has surged. He's been offered increased access to internal briefings and has quietly begun working with William's private secretary on family governance frameworks. Insiders say Peter Phillips is now more than just the Queen's eldest grandson. He is a guardian of the firm's future, and his quiet loyalty has redrawn the map of royal influence. But while Peter's unexpected rise signaled new order, questions swirled far beyond the palace gates. The issue wasn't just what Tom had done, but why he did it, and who may have helped him. The conspiracy angle. Behind palace walls, whispers turned into investigations. Tom Parker Bowles, once seen as harmless, had allegedly engaged in more than casual overreach. Intelligence shared with Peter Phillips pointed to repeated contact with media consultants, some linked to controversial memoir publishers. Draft outlines and private anecdotes were traced back to palace-adjacent dinners in 2023, where Tom allegedly shared information later echoed in tabloid rumors. The Royal Protection Unit flagged unusual activity from Tom's devices, including encrypted messaging apps and a 6-minute call placed from a secure area within Clarence House. Analysts suspect Tom may have been working on a hybrid media project, blending memoir, insider gossip, and curated legacy building at the monarchy's expense. Some advisors fear he hoped to cash in on post-Camilla royal access before being pushed out. Camilla reportedly knew of the memoir idea in vague terms, but claimed it was nothing serious. However, multiple sources say she attended one of the publisher meetings in late 2022, raising questions about how much she knew and why she didn't stop it. Whether complicit or naive, her inaction has now cost her dearly. Though the palace has not confirmed specifics, internal audits are underway. William has asked for digital firewalls to be reviewed. Staff have been instructed not to engage with Camilla's family circle outside official functions. A line has been drawn, not just by loyalty, but by necessity. Outside the gates of Buckingham Palace, the public learned of Tom's quiet exile, and the reaction was swift, polarizing, and deeply revealing. Public and press reaction. Within 48 hours of the leak, major tabloids picked up the story under headlines like "Camilla's son cast out" and "The Queen's family purged." Online forums exploded. On Twitter/X, hashtags like #TeamAnne, #ExiledTom, and #ProtectTheCrown trended for days. Public opinion fractured sharply. Camilla's dwindled favor plummeted further, while Princess Anne's approval rating surged in public polls. Media pundits debated fiercely. Was this justified or petty? Some defended Tom, painting him as collateral damage in the monarchy's internal civil war. But others highlighted a pattern of entitlement among non-working royals. "He flew too close to the throne," one commentator quipped. Even centrist publications sided subtly with William and Anne, praising their restraint in handling the scandal internally. Camilla's reputation, already fragile since Diana's era, has taken another hit. Public trust, especially among younger demographics, has all but evaporated. "They remember Diana," said one royal analyst, "and they see this as Camilla's court finally collapsing under its own weight." The Queen Consort's image rehabilitation, years in the making, now lies in ashes. Perhaps most striking is the media's shift in tone. No longer tiptoeing around Camilla's presence, they now openly question her influence. With public sentiment turning, calls for reform have grown louder. There is a new appetite for transparency and for limiting privileges to bloodline royals only, a sentiment William and Anne appear ready to fulfill. As the dust settles and reputations burn, the firm quietly restructures behind the scenes. The exile of Tom is no longer just an isolated event. It's become a signal, a realignment, and the monarchy's future may now rest on who remains inside the circle of trust. What this means for the future of the monarchy. The removal of Tom Parker Bowles is more than a disciplinary action. It's the symbolic beginning of a new royal era. Under the silent guidance of William, Princess Anne, and now Peter Phillips, the monarchy is drawing tighter lines around access, control, and influence. This is no longer Queen Elizabeth II's big tent monarchy. It is a return to discipline and bloodline, leaner, sharper, more contained. Camilla, once thought to be Charles's stabilizer, is now seen as a liability. Her family's presence at the palace has ended. Her authority is being systematically scaled back. Sources suggest her role will become increasingly ceremonial, a companion to the monarch, not a co-strategist. Behind closed doors, senior aides refer to it as the recalibration. William and Catherine have emerged unscathed, even emboldened. They represent the future, clear, focused, and scandal-resistant. Princess Anne, now revered as the monarchy's moral compass, holds greater sway in long-term succession and ceremonial oversight. Together, this trio has taken control not just of the moment, but of the map. One insider summarized it best. The message has been sent. If you serve the crown, you stay. If you serve yourself, you go. And just like that, the palace is smaller, stronger, and no longer pretending everyone belongs. The exile of Tom Parker Bowles isn't just another royal headline. It's a seismic crack in the already fragile foundation of King Charles III's court. For years, Camilla's family hovered on the edge of royal influence, given unprecedented access despite lacking titles, bloodline, or official duties. Many within the palace whispered concerns. Few dared act. But when Peter Phillips, quiet and loyal, delivered undeniable proof of misconduct, everything changed. Peter's findings, which reportedly included email transcripts, encrypted messages, and even logs of unauthorized access to royal properties, tipped the scales. It wasn't just poor judgment. It was betrayal. The kind that jeopardizes national trust, media stability, and the integrity of the monarchy itself. Charles, historically hesitant and emotionally tethered to Camilla, had no choice. The king signed off on a discreet but final order. Tom was to leave all royal accommodations immediately. Camilla, already struggling with fractured alliances inside Buckingham Palace, has seen her inner circle collapse in days. Her once influential status has dimmed under the weight of scandal. Worse still, her private plea to Charles, reportedly begging him to reconsider, was declined. The decision had been made. The crown, for once, chose survival over sentiment. In stark contrast, Princess Anne has risen as the monarch's compass. She never wanted glory, only order. And now her role as guardian of royal tradition is undeniable. Her son, Peter, once overlooked, is being quietly hailed within palace corridors as a watchdog for the realm. Together with Prince William, the firm is re-establishing itself, not as a family, but as a fortress. Public response has made one thing clear. This is not a scandal lost in palace shadows. The world is watching. Social media erupted with hashtags like #ExileTom and #ProtectTheCrown, with praise flooding in for Anne, William, and even Charles, for finally taking a stand. Meanwhile, Camilla's public approval has reached historic lows. In the court of public opinion, she's not just lost influence, she's lost credibility. What happens next will define the coming decade of monarchy. Camilla is expected to retreat into a more ceremonial role, stripped of strategic influence. William's model of a streamlined monarchy, one centered on bloodline loyalty, integrity, and duty, is becoming reality. And with Catherine, Anne, and Peter by his side, the next era of the firm is forming, stronger, smaller, and unshakably focused. This isn't just the end of Camilla's family influence. It's the beginning of a crown no longer willing to compromise. The monarchy has spoken. Those who leak, manipulate, or overstep, even if family, will be removed. And with that one quiet exile, the throne just reclaimed its strength.